Welcome back to more Homeworld Deserts of Karak. This is Artifact Cup 30. Finally, we're in round 7, and this round is Kalash Teeth. So, if you haven't been following the series, Artifact Cup 30 was a round-robin tournament. Normally, we do the artifacts as a single elimination bracket, but in this case, everybody plays everybody, and there were 9 rounds because there were, I believe, 10 players in this cup. Maybe, yeah, I'm gonna have to go back and look, but I believe it was 10 players, 9 rounds, and each round was pre-assigned. So, for round 7, Kalash Teeth, everybody's gonna be playing that, and this is a really common, well, actually, before I talk about the map, let me talk about the players. This is Megarith in the Coalition, pretty common faction for him to play, and starting out, going for, well, actually I didn't see what he did first with the Salvagers, probably CUs, but in any case, he's known for going for carrier power, so we're going to watch for that. And he's moving out with his base runner, which seems to be navigating pretty reasonably today. Oftentimes his base runner driver has trouble in that little tiny cockpit there, but not today. We'll see. We'll watch it. And Megarith's opponent is going to be Lorenzo, who's not moving his base runner at all, actually. It's kind of a little odd. Just keeping it parked here, not retiring it, not sending it into the bay, but also not sending it out onto the map. It's maybe a lost opportunity, but he is focusing on getting resourcing up and running, going for that remote, as well as Megarith is doing that.
We're cleared to move.
Lorenzo's also getting some LAVs out pretty early and going for AAV Fab, while Megarith is a little faster on the AAV Fab. So maybe slightly different build orders here. Looks like both players are going to have LAVs out and AAVs out pretty quickly, and it's just the ordering is a little bit different. So far, I think I like Megarith's opening a little more just because it's going to give him the hard punch sooner, and the difference in LAV times doesn't really seem to be affecting much. He's also got more resources out, but we'll see. So, Kalash Teeth, classic map. You start pretty close to each other, but we have these obstacles, and so there are these 3 sort of entrances into each base. I guess you could call this a 4th, but really it's just kind of the same 3rd entrance over here in practice. So, first AEV is out from Megarith. And Megarith is also going to grab his near artifact. Lorenzo really missing an opportunity by not moving or retiring his base runner. He could have been setting up a turret. He could have been collecting one of these artifacts. Could have been scouting with it. Even just placing it over here to kind of threaten the idea of a turret. Might have had Megarith sending his AAVs out this way instead of into Lorenzo's base. So this AAV not going to quite scout these LAVs, but it's going to see the ping and know that something is there. But only one AAV out for Lorenzo, and Lorenzo really does not want to be trying to fight AAVs on AAVs. So we're going to see what happens here. Railgun Fab coming out for Lorenzo, so he's going to have that counter available earlier, but you know what? He's really going to need it, and he almost needs a few minutes sooner. This base runner, is he setting up? He is setting up a turret. And there are just a few LAVs here from Megarith harassing, resourcing. Meanwhile, these LAVs from Lorenzo not really getting in time. This turret coming down, but it's going to be taken out before it really does any appreciable damage. And now this is going to be really dangerous for Lorenzo. Lorenzo needs to protect these salvagers, needs to take out these AAVs, needs to bully with his carrier. His LAVs here are going to do some resourcing damage, but not as much as the AAVs from Megarith.
Alert. Salvager destroyed. Be advised. Team en route to recover the artifact.
Railguns out right now would be good for Lorenzo. He does have the technology. He does need to make sure if he gets railguns out that he brings them sufficiently far away from Megarith's AAVs here. But it doesn't look like he's building them. He's building more AAVs instead, which is really not the right move. I would say you want to use your one AAV here, yep, to take out these LAVs. Now, meanwhile, over here, sure, Megarith's expansion here has been cleaned up, but he does have an AAV guarding at home, and he has a carrier with a little bit of power guarding at home. So the fight is really here, and Lorenzo is now out of salvagers. So he has a railgun, but it's dangerously close to this AAV right here. It needs to get away onto the hill. Needs to have never started that close. And it is on fire. And not in a good way. And just one more hit from this AAV, which is closing in on it, is likely to take it out. And there it is gone. That was really the only hope that Lorenzo had to clear this up, I think. He's bringing out more salvagers, but he doesn't have the resources, I don't believe, to start building more railguns. He needs more CUs. I'm actually surprised that it's CUs and not RUs that are limiting him. So now, this one AAV from Megarith, gonna have to retreat. But it doesn't really matter. These 5 LEVs from Lorenzo at this point would almost be better used, salvaged, retired rather, recycled, in order to build more salvagers. Because Lorenzo is actually out of resources with which to build salvagers. Lorenzo's going to try and do more economic damage to Megarith, but I don't think it matters. Megarith has more than enough salvagers to resource both of these pockets. He will lose some, but these AVs are just going to come back and guard at home. These AAVs from Lorenzo actually may have been much better used harassing resources, so I guess I'm a little bit undecided. I think the LEVs alone are not so good at harassing resources, but the AAVs would have been.
Go ahead. Let's clear out. Be ready to engage. New heading set.
Because even though these AAVs would be outmatched by the AAVs from Megarith, they would have still been able to do a lot of economic damage, and that may have given Lorenzo more cover under which to rebuild. As it is, Megarith's economy gonna be pretty solid on one base, and Lorenzo going to be not super solid on one base. He's only got 4 salvagers here. He needs to build another 2 in order to have the the RU income to build railguns. He does have one out now, so he can take care of some AAVs if he positions correctly. But look at this, Megarith bringing salvagers to, well, I don't even know what he's doing with this. He's bringing salvagers over to Lorenzo's other base here. And this is a silly fight. Look at how long it's taking for either of these AVs to do any damage to the other side. Imagine if these were just in here killing salvagers the whole time. Much, much more effective use of those AVs. Don't try to kill AVs with AAVs. Just kill them with something else.
Artifact recovered. Authentication confirmed. Carrier repair systems are unavailable.
Combat alert. Support craft lost.
Armor systems active.
So Megarith now definitely has the edge here, especially if he moves out with his carrier by building a support cruiser, which it looks like he's doing. He also has air tech. It's going to be very, very difficult for Lorenzo to recover at this point. Lorenzo can't salvage here because this AAV is still in play. One railgun hit would perhaps take care of that. But that AAV is going to retreat. And these LEVs are not really doing as much harass as they could be. Megarith's carrier has enough power to totally blow these away, even if there were no AAVs guarding at home. So these LEVs have lost any chance to do any real damage. I expect Lorenzo's gonna throw those away, and we now have railguns actually out in a pretty significant force here. The problem is Megarith has air.
Support cruiser now operational.
New course chart.
And a vastly superior economy. If Lorenzo used this opportunity rather than building up too many railguns to build up a better economy, he may be able to come back against Megarith by just winning a few good fights here.
Systems online.
But it's really, really risky without an AA turret out,
Carrier copy.
Proceed to rally point.
or without some kind of anti-air capability.
Armor online. Moving. Eyes open out there.
Lorenzo must know about this AAV,
Authentication pending. Deploy
so he needs to position these railguns in a good way against that. He may not know about this one.
order confirmed.
Salvager online.
Go for armor. Armor is
This
on.
AAV is in a tricky spot behind that rock. But as long as it stays there, it's also not doing any harm to Lorenzo, so Lorenzo just needs to be able to threaten it.
Deploy smoke screen. Green line confirmed.
An AAV over here. Gonna get some shots off against this one.
Support cruiser
This railgun.
now operational.
Armor vehicle taking effective fire. Coordinates confirmed.
More AAV on AAV combat. They're really not doing anybody any good. And this is just silly. That was a lot more damage done than needed to be.
Armored vehicle.
This over here is silly. Lorenzo's fighting a much more up-armored AAV.
Unavailable.
So even though that'll take forever, that is a fight that's in Megarith's favor. And Megarith now has the support cruisers to be able to move out and has aircraft. This is really, This might look to Lorenzo like he's recovered, but what he doesn't see is all the ways in which he's about to lose. And these AAVs are not the only force for Megarith. Megarith is actually kind of doing the opposite of what you want to do a lot of the times, which is Megarith is showing just a little bit of his force as if it's kind of all he's got. And oftentimes you want to sort of do the opposite, you know, show all of your force and pretend like it's not all you've got in order to fake your enemy into thinking you're stronger than you are. But both tactics are effective, and in this case, Megarith is going to tease out Lorenzo, and Lorenzo is not going to be as eager to pump up his economy. So these AAVs are closing in. These railguns from Lorenzo will be able to do a little bit of damage, but what does it really matter? Here's the carrier. These LAVs are all going to be thrown away. I don't know why you build LAVs against an enemy that's showing exclusively AAVs. Doesn't really make any sense. Having these LAVs against air would perhaps be effective, but this is a terrible move. I'm sorry to be harsh about that, but moving these LAVs one at a time through AAVs and a carrier, just kind of right-clicking on the home resource point, that was a waste. Those LAVs were totally thrown out, and that was a huge amount of Lorenzo's wealth. So now Lorenzo has 6 railguns, a respectable railgun force, but he needs to pump up economy, and those LAVs that were thrown out were CUs that could have been used for economy, CUs that could have been used to plop down an AA turret as soon as he sees aircraft. Right now, given that he's in range to be able to hear the soundbite about aircraft coming out, Lorenzo should be popping an AA turret immediately and spreading these railguns. He's going to move back the railguns. Not that moving back actually does anything against aircraft. More LAVs coming out, which I just don't understand the point of. The LAVs, if they're going to be used, should be used as anti-air. LAVs can shoot up. And there's still no AA turret here. These units really not doing anything. If they came back and took out a support cruiser, that could be really effective. But the way they were deployed before was suicidal. So Megarith going to take the artifact victory there. I wasn't even watching the base runners. It wasn't really a particularly interesting part of the game. So total victory there for Megarith by pretty much all possible paths. I really feel like as much as Megarith did the right thing there, the game was won by Lorenzo doing the wrong thing. And it was, you know, Megarith certainly came up with more AAVs, but Lorenzo didn't need to have AAVs at home. He needed to have LAVs in the enemy resourcing, not one at a time, but really in clumped up groups, and those units were really pretty misused. In any case, this is only the first game in round 7, so there's gonna be 4 more games on Clash Teeth, and we can see all kinds of different ways of winning on this map, or losing on this map as it happens. So stay tuned. Thank you for watching.